thought it would be appropriate to give you a tour of this Amel. Here we're in the V-berth. This is where Herbie and I have been sleeping for the past week or so. It's got 2 separate berths and lots of storage on both sides. It's symmetrical and lots of storage behind me here.
So a really awesome feature on these Amels is a lifting bow thruster. The bow thruster is actually behind this curtain. You have the bow thruster. So it's on this pulley system, and actually from the helm you hit a button, thruster comes down, takes about 10 seconds to deploy it, and then you can power it, one side or the other, whatever you need to do. And then when you're done, it goes back up. So you have a nice flush haul, but you have a retractable bow thruster hidden up here in the V-berth. Now, when you're underway, you actually put a little pin in. So you put the little pin in, and then the pin holds it so it can't accidentally fall out in a seaway, because you don't want that. So we're gonna play a little game here where you guys look at the room and then decide whose side is which. This is one side. Whose side is this one? Let us know in the comments whose side is which.
So working bow aft, we then come into the head here, and it's a really nice head. It's a flushing toilet with a macerator. It's pretty self-explanatory. Here's the head.
Now, a really cool feature on apparently all Amels, but this is a Super Maramu, are watertight bulkheads. So you close the door. If you notice, there's this gasket on it. So when you close the door, if you crash or something crap happens, water would only flood up to here. This is sealed, and the idea is that then the next compartment isn't filling with water and you don't sink. You just have a very heavy segment of your boat. So the boat's actually broken up into 4 separate watertight compartments. And the engine, the engine room, is actually its own watertight compartment. That way, crap can be happening, motor still runs. Unless that's the compartment that's filling up with water, then crap happened.
Now we're gonna move further aft into the salon area. This is a really comfortable area of the boat. Still tons of storage everywhere you look. Even underneath, we have the freezer here, which is very unexpected. Then there's a television in here.
And this here actually slides out to make another berth in the salon area.
Then behind the salon here, we have the galley, which is really roomy with lots of counter space. It's got both a top loading fridge and a normal fridge.
In the galley are also the controls to the water maker, which are really awesome. The sucker cranks out about 60 liters per hour, which is about 30 gallons or so an hour. It's pretty impressive. It runs off 220 volt because we're in Europe, so everything is 220, but it runs off AC. So that means that you have to be running the generator to make water. So technically it's not free water, it's diesel water, but it tastes good. This is the nav station, kind of filled with various electronics that we are currently charging, but it's really great. This is connected to the computer outside at the helm, so they communicate. And this is where the tour stops, because this is Rob's cabin, captain's cabin, and we don't go back there, but it does have a really nice, comfortable berth kind of in the hallway here, another head, and a very large cabin for the captain. Now we travel outside, where we have a very nice roomy cockpit. We've got the access to the engine room right below my feet here. So a lot of boats tout that you can sail the whole boat without leaving the cockpit. Well, the Amel is special because you can sail the whole boat without leaving this chair. So right here, you've got access to all the furlers and the winches, as well as the deck lights and the windlass. You can also see here, this is the computer that connects with the one downstairs, and all of these wind instruments along here. So you never need to look away from this area, really. But as a good sailor, you still will. Now, the only thing that's not electronic is the mizzen, because it's not that far a walk from the helm. So you just come over here. This is actually the furler. So you just crank that to furl in or out the sail, and then you work the out haul, and then the mizzen sheet. And this here is the main sheet.
Which is electronic.
Yeah, so you just push the little button and sucker comes in. Now, a really cool thing with the mast, it's all electronic, so you hit a button for the furler, another one for the out haul, like everything happens and it's all push button. But because it's push button, there's no feedback to you, so you have to keep a really close eye on everything that's happening, because a sail that's not moving could be it's snagged or it's just some resistance, and the winch doesn't really know the difference. It's just going because you're telling it to, and it can really easily pull until it rips. So you gotta be careful with that part.
And here's the deck. Very accessible, easy to walk around. I have one complaint, and that is this step here is quite invisible, and we have all tripped on it multiple times.
And now, the engine room. So down here is the really big diesel motor. On the other side, you have the generator. There's almost standing space in here. They have a little light, that way you can see things in the dark in case someone closes the lid and forgets that you live. And down here. So down in the engine room, you have the motor, the generator, the water maker, the water heater, air conditioner units, like all sorts of stuff. It's all down here in this nice sound deadened room. It's not proof, you still hear it, but it's a lot quieter than when you're actually down in here. Now, if you took this table off, you can actually open the engine bay hood open higher and larger, and it's an easier hole to climb through. But this table is so convenient, and being how this is a British-owned boat, tea time happens here.
Now, one thing about Amel is that everything is put together very specific to Amel. So if anything breaks or you need to replace anything, you have to get it from Amel. You can't just get it from any random chandler. And that can really jack up your prices. So that's one downside to an Amel, is everything is custom. Now with all these fancy gizmos, they've been really fun to experience because we don't have any of them. However, they definitely have their downsides, and unfortunately we have seen all of their downsides. With great gizmos and great convenience comes great responsibility and great maintenance. So ever since we've been lucky enough to be passengers and crew on this boat, we've been also fixing things. And by we, I mean mostly Herbie.
Yeah, I have the mechanical know-how and flexibility to get into these little places.
So the first thing to go bad was the diesel motor.
Yeah, so it's not that the diesel motor is inherently bad, it's that when you have stuff worked on your motor, you are then relying on the mechanic that did it to have done a good job. So what happened was the guy had a lot of work done on his motor by a mechanic who's a reputable mechanic at the marina, but apparently he forgot to put a couple things back and the motor was just pouring out oil, and it was just a nightmare. And that wasn't an isolated case, because he also worked on another friend's boat whose motor was just mysteriously leaking diesel all over the place. So yeah, that's stuff you got to worry about. So we had the motor issue. After we got the oil figured out, then it was a coolant issue with the motor, and then the generator was giving some troubles, and then the water maker was leaking.
So then we had an issue with the Furler, another system that is built for total convenience that is constantly breaking. And
so inconvenient.
Yeah. We had a very scary moment during just our first couple of hours on our trip. The Furler for the Code Zero turned a very fun, very fancy-free sail into something that was dangerous and could have potentially ripped the sail.
Yeah, we were lucky to have recovered the sail, because it was getting close to the point where we were all contemplating setting it free and losing a very expensive sail.
So what happened was the captain decided to furl it back in just a little too late. The winds had picked up, and
yeah, we were having a really great sail,
yeah,
and really going along quickly, but it got a little too windy. So the furler actually had so much pressure against the other headsail, because I know they're supposed to be set really far apart, but they're not on this boat. They're very close together, and the pressure between them wouldn't let the sail furl, so it just couldn't go. And then when it did finally start furling, it actually sucked in the other headsail sheets. It was a nightmare. It was really, really bad.
So we
really
couldn't
scary.
get it back in.
And also, when we left the marina, the mizzen sail, the furler, the sail got stuck and we couldn't get it out, and the owner had to actually come out and like yank on it, because we didn't want to yank on it because you're you might rip something.
It's not our boat.
At one point, Maddie actually hopped on a friend's boat who had in-mast furling as well. And how did that go?
As we were unfurling the main, it got caught. One of its vertical battens actually got caught, and we couldn't unfurl it all the way. And what happened was we ended up putting it under load, and the situation worked itself out. But we were sailing under a third of a sail
Yeah, but the
for
other thing,
quite a bit of time.
they also couldn't get it back in.
Right.
And the problem is, if you're in a storm and it gets stuck partway,
Mm-hmm.
ho ho.
So we so we are deeply against roller furling, as you know, if you saw our roller furling versus Hank on Sails episode.
Yeah, we're a bit biased.
Well, we are biased, but for good reason, because we have had both, and we have had lots of experience, especially now, with both. And Hank on Sails is just the way to go, in our opinion.
Yeah, it's so simple. Yeah.
And it's not as dangerous.
So in the future, eventually when we make it back to the US, we're going to be outfitting our other sailboat, because we're crazy and have 2 sailboats. So we have an Auberg 30 that we're going to be outfitting with everything that we've learned on this trip. And I can tell you, roller furling is not going to be on that boat.
So the water maker was a separate issue. It started shorting out the generator, and it was leaking, and things were just going badly with it. So that was an entirely separate problem that Herbie and Rob had to troubleshoot and sort out.
Yeah, and then a really fun thing. So there's an anchor wash pump up in the V-berth, and we heard this dripping, but we couldn't figure out what it was from. And it was dripping a lot and quickly. So when we finally figured out that it was that pump, there was about a foot of water in the bilge, and that watertight bulkhead right behind us actually really works very well because the water did not proceed any further. The only issue is there's no bilge pump up there. So that means all the water had to be bailed out by hand into the shower, which does go into the bilge.
So Herbie and I bailed out about a little more than a foot of water out of that bilge.
There was a lot of salt water in there.
Yeah. So that was a problem, and...
Yeah. And the whole issue is that convenient pump to just simply wash your anchor chain as it comes up could have sunk the boat.
So it's something to think about when you're looking at different boats and you want various conveniences, such as a water maker and
the anchor wash pump.
And an anchor wash pump. The more conveniences you have, the more can break. And if you find yourself relying on these things, particularly on the water maker, you're going to run into some major problems if it breaks and you don't have the materials or know how to fix it. So water makers can be a lifesaver, but we have constantly had to answer the question, why on earth do you not have a water maker?
Yeah.
And our answer has always been, well, if it breaks, and it will break.
Yeah, they break often.
Then what do? And we have so much water reserve anyway that we rely on our...
Yeah, and the other thing, we hear a lot of people say that, like, to outfit a boat to be blue water ready to go cruising, you have to have a water maker. And that is so false. We've been 3.5 years, no water maker.
And we'll do an entire episode all about the gizmos that you need for a boat to be blue water ready, and the gizmos that many people think you need.
And we can tell you, it's a really short list of the things you need. So what it comes down to is there's nice to haves and need to haves. And the more nice to haves you have, the more need to fixes you have. So what are your favorite things about this boat?
So my favorite things about the Amel are the pure luxurious comfort that it provides. Everything is rounded, beautiful, attractive, but also super comfortable, and everything is very conveniently placed and well thought out.
Yeah. My favorite things about the Amel are it is just so well designed. Like, everything works together so well. Like, it's just all the things that you should have on a blue water boat are standard on this boat. And I looked up, actually, so the Amel's like options of things you can get on an Amel. It's a very short list of options because it's designed really well as it is. You either take it or you don't take it. And so some interesting points. There's no durads. There's no vents that water can come in. Like, it's just designed to be a really strong, safe boat. Mm-hmm. And it really shows. And then also, beautiful woodwork. And I love wood. And this is just
Yeah, it's attractive.
It's beautiful.
Another thing that I really love about it is actually the way it sails. It's a very comfortable sail. You never are heeling over very far. It's very sturdy and upright and balanced.
Yeah, being split rig, instead of the sails being like super close and super high up, they take the same amount of sail area and just spread it out over a longer surface. So we were very comfortable in 20 knots of wind, full sail with a code 0 up, which was the problem because it was 20 knots.
It doesn't feel like you're sailing fast. When
Yeah.
when you're sailing at 6 to 7 knots, it does not feel like that at all. It's just smooth. In conclusion, in summary, Amel, really wonderful, beautiful boat, sails really nicely.
So well built.
Very balanced.
And so well thought out.
Yes.
Like, honestly, if you have a lot of money and just want to go cruising and don't want to worry about making a boat blue water ready, an Amel is turnkey blue water ready. Like, they're just so well designed.
They've thought about everything that's inconvenient in other boats, they have tackled and they have an answer for.
It's so nice. But there's a lot of systems. So instead of working on your boat to make it blue water ready, you're going to spend a lot of time maintaining all the systems of this boat. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.
And if you'd like to follow our journey in real time on a map, receive postcards from our ports of call, and message us directly to the boat, you can go ahead and become a patron using the link in the description down below.